ones that,
The little one.
yeah, just the little ones.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I miss that. I live in an apartment now, and I really miss my wood burning stove.
Yeah.
Oh,
I like the smell.
oh, me too. I'm with you, girl. In fact, in the wintertime when I'm really longing for it, I'll just rent a little cabin somewhere that I can find
Yeah.
it. That has to be, and one or two times I've gone there and it's a fake one.
Oh.
I said,
No,
no,
that's
this
not fun.
not the same.
I've
Can't.
been told that I should do that. Like go out and rent a cabin.
Yeah.
Just
Just
get
do
away.
it. I do it a lot. And as a mom,
Yeah.
I wish I'd done it more. I tried to run away from home a couple of times.
Yeah.
I said, time out. I
Yes.
can't. I'm the chief cook and bottle washer. Nobody likes me. Nobody loves me. No one's giving me any. And you still bring your same shit to me every single day. And I'm cleaning your clothes and I'm making you. And nobody's giving me the kind of respect that I need.
I'm out.
I'm out.
That's
you know. But now I can do it because nobody cares whether I run away or not because I'm just living by myself. But I still need it.
Yeah.
I think it does good for your soul just to go take a breather.
Are we on him?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Yep.
I think we've been on the whole time, but that's okay. That's so funny because I do that too. I call a timeout for myself because I grew up playing sports, so that's what I'm like. Mama needs a timeout, and I call it that like once every. Yep, timeout. I'm out.
Well, and I think
good luck.
It helps your kids too realize that sometimes when things just get to be so much, it's a healthy thing to just say, you know what. Time out. Let's step back. Let's either start over or I need to walk away. Or I might say something that maybe is going to not be the correct thing. It's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Yeah.
And we can all get really worked up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've learned a few things, but I don't know.
Well, we're going to talk about him. I should probably introduce you first. Or let me actually, this is episode 3. Mm-hmm. Yay. Thank you for being here. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself and just kind of give us a brief kind of overview of what you do now. And then we'll take it back.
Well, my name is Leslie Mayne. And I'm now 66 as of yesterday. I'm a mother of 4, and I've done a lot of different things in my life, but this last chapter of my life, I started a foundation called the Permission to Start Dreaming. It officially started in 2013, but it really got launched in 2011. That was the first Race for a Soldier, so there's 4 events that we do with this foundation. But the mission itself is to help veterans really reclaim their lives when they've lost their way after service to their country. And I saw a real void there when my own son was in the VA hospital for 6 months. And he was in there in 2008 and then into 2009. And he was being treated for post-traumatic stress and also traumatic brain injury after serving in Iraq. And they ended up discharging him in 2009, March 6th, and they told him he was just taking up a bed and that he could self-medicate. And we would have these conversations leading up to it. What does that exit plan look like?
Mm-hmm. You and him?
He and I on the phone.
Okay.
Yeah, I was here in Tacoma working for the Muscular Dystrophy Association. Lived in Gig Harbor for the last 25 years, though. But I would talk to him as much as I could, and I was very concerned about him. I was concerned that there wasn't a resource for me to find for him, and I was moving heaven and earth to try to find those. But in 2009, we were seeing a lot of suicides out on the base here in Joint Base Lewis McChord. We were seeing a lot of reckless living, if you will, from soldiers coming back. And it was an epidemic then. And I had a few people trying to give me some good advice, a few books here and there. But honestly, there was no safety net that I knew. And between his dad that lived in Virginia and me that lived out here, his sisters and brothers and cousins that were very concerned, we really didn't know what that looked like. And then they discharged him on March 6th without giving any indication to any of us. And it was actually something that was a document that was signed that I've since found. It said, before this soldier is released or discharged, call his parents. And that didn't happen. So Kyle, at 27, was discharged from Perry Point, Maryland. And my guess is that he was feeling pretty hopeless, probably some shame. I've read since his journals and had years to think about it, reflect on it. But in that moment when he found that hotel room in Baltimore, I don't know that his intent was to take his life intentionally. I think it was a self-destructive mode he was in that night. He had a lot of medication. And when he asked me the question a couple of days prior, Mom, they say I can self-medicate, what do you think? And my answer was, I don't know, Kyle. I don't have an answer for that. And so he found a Baltimore hotel room. I think he had about $90 in his pocket. There were some other friends that gathered there with him in the hotel room, I understand. And he didn't wake up the next day, so he was non-responsive the next morning. And so, we lost him. He ran out of time. We ran out of time to help him. And I got the call that day, and my life has changed drastically. I mean, that was my very pivotal moment. And we've all had loss in our life, but losing a child, that's the game changer. That's the game changer. So in answer to your question, the long answer is that I am dedicated in the last chapter of my life to stand in the gap for those veterans that need that extra love and extra support and hug, and in a very meaningful, compelling, powerful, strength-based way, not just lip service.
Yeah. So I have had, we're going to talk more about the foundation, but I'd like to, I imagine that when you lose a child, I've had some people come through as clients who've lost children, and I imagine that there's a before and there's after. Is that right?
Yeah, the easy part is those immediate moments, months, maybe even year. As painful as that probably hard to hear from somebody.
Yeah.
You're going through the motions. I mean, the pain is, without sounding dramatic, it truly hurts that bad it should kill you. And I remember getting the words that we had lost him, and I got him over the phone from his father, because the Baltimore police had shown up at his home in Hamilton, Virginia, and my youngest son was actually at the home that weekend from school. And so Cody, at age 21, received the news from the police, and his father was not on the property at that time. And I remember getting the phone call, and if you've given birth, you remember what those groans often happen when you're giving birth, and they're sort of almost out of body. That feeling, and you don't have any control over those groans.
Yeah.
That's the same kind of groan, I think. In fact, I know that I probably let out when I first heard those words. It was guttural. It was from a place where I don't even know if I could even ever repeat it. But there's nothing to compare. It's inconceivable. It's unspeakable. It's all those things. And so then you go through the moments, and you go through the days of planning the funeral and flying back, and it's all sort of a blur. So I have enormous grace for mothers and fathers who have experienced any level of that kind of loss, whether it's through cancer, car accident, or killed in action, or sudden death as a baby. Once you've experienced it, you're supposed to feel that kind of profound pain. That's the gift that God gives us, to love that deeply. And then to experience that loss, you're supposed to feel that,
Now that wasn't that long ago. When I was reading, gosh, it feels like the race for the soldier was so much longer than
I know.
It was. It really wasn't that long ago.
No, it's pretty amazing. People ask me, how does it feel? Sometimes when you see people remembering the anniversaries of a death of a loved one or a child, and well, it's been 5 years, get over it,
Yeah.
or 15 years, come on, you got to move on. And it's not the kind of thing that you ever, it's never going to go away. But you certainly, God gives us the circumstance in life. I'm not saying that I don't blame God for Kyle's death. I mean, Kyle was the master of his fate. He took those drugs, he did that alcohol, there were other drugs involved. He made a conscious choice that night. Whether he was in his right mind or not, I don't know, but that was Kyle's fate, and that was the end of his chapter here on earth. And it's tragic for the rest of us because I wanted a lot more time with him. But when that circumstance comes into your life, at some point, you can linger there for as long as you want to, but at some point, you got to figure out what you're going to do with that. And I don't believe that God wastes a tragedy. I really don't. But it took me a long time to figure out what that looked like. What was I going to do with this incredible pain, and where was that love going to go? And what was that shift? How was I going to make that shift? So there was a lot of darkness before the light, that's for sure. But yeah, it'll be 10 years in March that we will have this anniversary of Kyle's death. And then it took me about a year at least. I left. I sold everything, quit my job.
And how old were your other kids?
So Kyle was 27, Kelsey was 25, Kendall was 23, and then Cody was 21.
Okay.
So all still young adults finding their way. Kelsey was happily married to her high school sweetheart. Kendall was finishing college and living in New York and trying to figure out life in New York. And she had some other losses going in her life. And then Cody was in college. But it was devastating for them. And they're still, they've had their own journey of that trauma. But I know that as they see their mom get stronger, it gives them something to look to, and they see that they don't have to worry so much about me, because I think they were pretty worried about me. And they should have been. No, I was worried about me. Yeah. Everybody was. I mean, I had other losses going on at the time. I was going through a marriage that probably should have never happened. But all the same, it was devastating to me. I didn't see it coming. I didn't see the end of that marriage coming, and that was happening all in the time of Kyle's struggle in the VA. And yeah, I didn't and of course, along with that, I mean, literally I lost everything. I lost everything I knew financially, my stability, financial stability, my social status, if you were, who I was, what I was doing. And then when my son died, it was like, whoa, man, seriously, what else can you do? What else can happen here? Because I felt like I'd been pushed off a cliff and I was never going to land. So I was doing really meaningful work at the Muscular Dystrophy Association. I was running the summer camp for kids. I was
And
running.
how long had you been doing that?
10 years.
Okay.
And I've been involved with the ALS population and running the facilitation for the support groups and the clinics, and I loved those families, and they were very dear to me. And but their needs were great, emotionally and physically, and I didn't have it.
And this was Pierce County?
So this Pierce County
Okay.
out of Tacoma, but we ran the summer camp here in at the YMCA, and also Waskowitz. And I mean, one of the things I did, which brought me the greatest joy, was traveling around to the high schools, including Peninsula and Gig Harbor and Sumner and White River and all in between. And I would look for volunteers, high school volunteers that would be willing to give up a week of their summer and be the arms and legs for kids with neuromuscular disease. And you know what? I loved doing that. I loved recruiting young people to do something that was greater than themselves. And it was a really easy sell for women, young women. It was a harder sell for men, young men, because, they got to do things that they're not that comfortable with. Yeah. But once they did, and we have a lot of firefighters and first responders that would always do that. Gosh, it was one of the greatest joys of my life. But at that point, I realized that I was disingenuous taking a paycheck from them. My heart wasn't into it, and I was dialing it in, mailing it in, if you will. And then with the end of this marriage, and the house was going into foreclosure, and then so Kyle's death and service was March 2009, and my divorce was 2 weeks later. And then I was supposed to run this summer camp in June, and then telethon was coming up in August, and by the end of that year, I realized I was so lost. I was so sad. Honestly, I was really isolating myself, and I found there weren't enough drugs or alcohol to take away that pain. So I made a decision to just give it away, sell it, give my notice, and in January of 2010, I got in my red truck, my Toyota pickup truck, and my son Cody drove with me for a little bit, and my tribe at the Wesleyan, my pastor and my friends basically gave me a send-off prayer, and the prayer was just to have conversations with God that I'd never had before in my life, because I had to figure this out. I was on the road to ruin, and nothing made sense this side of heaven. Nothing. I was hopeless, and I think that's why I identify with veterans or anybody with mental illness. It's not so much that they want to, especially in suicidal cases, it's not so much that people want to die. It's just that they don't want to live with that kind of pain, or that kind of hopelessness, or that kind of confusion. And so I needed some people that would love me through it. I needed prayers. I needed a tribe that would love me no matter what and continue to remind me of who I was, and not only in their eyes, but in the eyes of God. But I had to figure it out. But that constant reminder was the greatest gift that my friends and family ever gave me. And then just that patience with me, and allow me to go to wherever I needed to go to figure it out.
So where'd you go?
So we went down, we did the coast, we traveled just lightly.
So they just supported?
They did. I got gift cards, I got new tires, my oil was changed. I had a little, we didn't have devices on our phones at that time. What was that thing that you bought and put in your car?
The Garmin.
The Garmin.
Yes.
I got a Garmin. Now, I was packed up like the Clampetts. I mean, I looked like I was coming right into West Virginia or out of West Virginia. And my son Cody, he was lost too. And so he said, Mom, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. Can I come with you?
He'll start the journey with you.
So we went down to California, visited every beach, cried at every hotel. We had to sort of, we had to go to Clean Sheets hotels, and I had to watch it because I didn't have any money. I had $900 or something. And, we found our way. And Cody had this guitar that I'd bought him. And
no, I'm assuming this is not how you were living 15, 20 years earlier.
No, not at all. No. No, I've lived in beautiful homes, and when I make a home wherever I go, but no, the father of my 4 children still lives in the home that we built for our kids in Virginia. Beautiful, 6 acres and wonderful. It's the country in Virginia, and then this home in Olalla was wonderful. No, I'd always been employed and worked hard and had a home, and if you knew me back then, you would have said I was a community contributor, and I was very involved in everything, and I had a nice, not a sizable bank account, but I had financial security. Yeah. But it's all monopoly money in the end. That's what I've learned. It's like, what I've learned is that, putting stock in any of that matters not. Right. Not that you shouldn't be frugal and make good choices and be a good servant and steward of your money, but when things happen in life and you lose it all, you really have to look to something deeper than that, and you find a way to survive, and I did. My sister lives in Southern California, and she took us in, and those were some of the most powerful days, and then she sent us off, and so ended up in South Texas because I have an aunt that lives down there.
So he has the guitar.
Oh, he's got the guitar, and he's playing, and we're playing, and bless his heart, he's a musician, and he always drove us nuts with his drumming and all that going, but he's very talented, and so he would play, and it was a source of comfort, and I knew it was, and so I was happy to get this guitar for him. Now he's 21, you know, so the damn kid leaves it in the Weed Hotel that we're at, the hotel in Weed, California.
In Weed?
Yeah, you would have thought we were
I grew up in
smoking a lot.
Northern California.
But it was this cute little motel, and we just honestly, we didn't even talk a lot because we couldn't. We were paralyzed. We were paralyzed with sadness, just profound sadness. But the guitar kept him alive, and at least I could drive, and we figured things out, and then we just tried to make the best of it. And I think that in perspective, Cody and I look at that now as just the most amazing road trip. But boy, it didn't feel very joyous at the time. It felt extremely painful. But he leaves it, and we leave the next day. We're 100 miles into our trip south. And I said, Cody, why don't you, because he was driving me nuts, because he was picking all the music, and it ended up being reggae, and I was going out of my mind. I just wanted either some classical or something I could live with, and he wouldn't, and I knew he was in pain, so I let him make the choice. So I said, Cody, bring out that guitar. I'd love to hear you. Just play anything. And he looked at me with tears in his eyes. He said, Mom, I didn't want to tell you, but I think I left it back at the hotel. And he was crushed, and I was crushed. Because for me, that meant, so it wasn't the money. It was just, for me, that was his lifeline. That was going to save our butts all the way down to Texas, because it was going to give him something. So I pulled over, and we found this little gift store, and I bought him, don't ask me why, the only thing that was there that was musical were the bongos. Bongos! But because he's a drummer, and it's like, oh my gosh. So I was so enabling his habit. But God bless him, we still have those bongos, and I don't even know if he did much with them. But it was more of I can't buy you a guitar because there's nothing here, but I want you to keep doing your music, because I think you're going to find healing and solace in this music.
Yeah.
So that was really more what I was trying to say to him is, just do something musical that'll save your soul at this point. So we end up, and it all just looked so gray. There was just nothing beautiful. We saw nothing beautiful, but my prayer inside was, God, let me just see you in everything and every person we see on this journey. If nothing else, show up.
Yeah.
If you're real, and if you really do love me, if I am really your child, that you're crying along with me, because you know how sad I am. Just show up in people and in places and in things. And boy, did he. Even when I didn't know, but they were there.
Yeah.
And so we end up in South Padre Island area, Los Fresnos, because that's where my aunt has a business. And she took us in. She gave me a job as a bookkeeper. And if anybody knows me, who in their right mind would hire you, Leslie, as their bookkeeper? But that was her need, and then she hired Cody to work in the warehouse. And if you've ever been to South Padre Island and that area, it's right along the border of Mexico. So it's northern Mexico, if you will. And there's a great culture down there. There's people that come from the Midwest and live down there in the winter, but the rest of the world, it's a very, very Hispanic culture. And she's got a thriving company down there, and she hires wonderful people, and they just allowed us to live there. And I think my Aunt Barbara was always hoping that I would stay there, because I think she missed having part of her family down there. She has a daughter and grandkids and all that, but it pleased her to have me down there. But it was really mostly, she loved Kyle. She knew his demons and the challenges. She was with me for many, many years. She's always been a mother to my kids, or an aunt to my kids, if you will, or grandmother, because my mom died a long time ago. So my Aunt Barbara has this incredible spirit, and she just allowed me to be there, and it would become some pretty dark days. Cody lasted 2 weeks, and it wasn't for him. And there's not a lot of young people down there his age. I don't even know what he was searching for. He didn't know, but it was clear that it wasn't the right setting for him.
Mm-hmm.
So he went back to live with his dad and figure things out. And he's go back to school, I think, for a while. But no, he's had some tough years of figuring out what his passion and purpose are. But yeah, the time down there was it was very meaningful. But I felt even more alone and more lost. And one day, I was sitting on that South Padre beach, and I did start running a little bit for my pain, but it's very hot down there. So the heat and humidity didn't line up with any of my sensibilities. It was a really hard climate for me to live in. But I managed to do it. She's got a pool, and there's she's got a beautiful place and all that. But it's just a different climate. I need the cold. I need the pine trees. I need water in rivers and oceans and things like that, and green. But there was definitely a day, and I would wear my sunglasses all the time because I was crying all the time. And
And this is what, a year?
No, this is this is a year.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a year. So I went down there in 2010. So I would celebrate the 1 year. And if you've talked to any moms in particular, maybe dads too, that first year is pretty numb.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say that most moms probably can't tell you everything they did that first year. Because you just have to put one foot in front of the other and keep breathing. That's all you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And there's days when you can barely do that. And I think that's that's pretty normal. Not unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just what it is. But yeah, there was a day when the pain and the sadness and the profound loss just kept building and building and building, because then the fear was coming in as, what am I gonna do? I don't have a job. I have no money. I've now failed at this other marriage. Who that person really hurt my children too. So, and then my children, I saw them hurting. I felt responsible for their pain, but I couldn't do anything for my own. Mm-hmm. So there was a real fear as to how am I gonna, I'm only 55, 56. What am I gonna do to support myself? You know, this isn't how I saw my life playing out.
Mm-hmm.
And there was nothing in me that wanted to pick up a resume and start handing out and seeing if I could find a job. I'd been a flight attendant for many years. I sort of thought about getting back into that world. But it had to be something where it was pretty mindless. Mm-hmm. It wasn't something that I was going to be asked to do a lot. And now it sounds like a slam on flight attendants, and it's not. I didn't mean it that way. I was familiar with the industry, so I knew I could do it.
Yeah.
Because I loved that time.
Looking for a big
I
challenge.
was looking for a challenge, but I also didn't need to try to fix anybody's world. Mm-hmm. In the hospitality world, I'm pretty good at that. I mean, I love that service. I love the service industry, and I've done it a lot. But I certainly wasn't looking to get back into what I had been doing, because in the nonprofit world, there's a lot of pressures on you. You have to fundraise. You have to wear a lot of hats. You're exhausted. There's long hours. The pay isn't all that great. So for me, I just didn't know. But there was a day, and it was all leading up to it, that, man, I don't know if I can do this life anymore. And I was drinking. My aunt is a recovering alcoholic, very involved with AA, and she knew that she would even buy me my wine. She loved my wine. Mm-hmm. I mean, she didn't drink it, but she knew that I enjoyed it, and she didn't take that from me. But I started hiding it a little bit more, because I was needing more to get through the day. And it was, I was also doing Ambien, because it was helping me sleep. Mm-hmm. The combination of the two was starting to merge a little bit. And I knew it was not healthy where I was.